The WNBA has got full power on calling a strike authorization from the WNBA players. WNBA statement regarding strike authorization vote. They had a vote. All right. The players had a vote, and they said, basically, that the WNBA can literally call a strike whenever they feel it's necessary.
WNBA has got full power on calling a strike. Authorization from the WNBA players. WNBA statement regarding strike authorization vote. They had a vote, all right? The players had a vote, and they said basically that the WNBA can literally call a strike whenever they feel it's necessary.
What's happening right now in women's basketball isn't just drama, it's sabotage. And I'm about to show you exactly who's killing the golden goose while pretending they are saving it. Let me paint you a picture. December 2025, the WNBA just had its biggest year ever. Record viewership, sold-out arenas, corporate sponsors throwing money at the league like never before. Team USA training camp just wrapped up with nothing but positive vibes. Caitlin Clark, Paige Buckers, Angel Reese, all on the same court, looking incredible. The future has never looked brighter. And then Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe drop a podcast clip that goes nuclear. Not because it's insightful, not because it moves the game forward, but because they spent the entire segment condescending to the millions of new fans who literally saved their league. Here's what really happened. Sue Bird, Megan Rapinoe, and guest Katie Nolan sat down for a podcast episode. They talked about growing pains in the WNBA. Cool. Valid topic. But then they made a choice. They clipped the most inflammatory part of that conversation and posted it on Twitter to promote their show. This wasn't taken out of context. This was the context. They wanted this take to go viral.
Why we're still bringing up a toxic fan base. I thought it was so condescending to say that so many fans are just latching on to Caitlin Clark for reasons other than the basketball. And that is something that we just continue to see. And it was also crazy because Katie Nolan at the end of this whole bit, she was like, yeah, I don't really watch that many games, but I'm keeping tabs on it. And it's like, that's the reason you had the take that you did. The reason that you had the take that you did is because you're not watching the games. You're not watching what's going on. You're not going to the games. And you clearly said that. You said, I'm a casual fan. I don't really watch the games, but I keep tabs on what's going on.
Let that sink in. Someone who doesn't watch women's basketball is telling people who wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning in Germany to catch Indiana Fever games that they are not real fans. Someone who can't name half the starting lineups is lecturing the people who drove attendance up 300% about why they are watching wrong.
To single out, once again, like I said, in 2025, to target a group of fans felt like was very condescending. There was another point in the podcast where Sue Bird said that all of these new fans that came here, they immediately said that all of the players who came before Caitlin were trash. And that's just not true.
The audacity is breathtaking. And it gets worse. Because here's what nobody's talking about. The WNBA Players Association just gave their executive committee full authorization to call a strike whenever they feel like it. 93% of players participated in the vote. 98% said yes. Only 2% pushed back. And I'd bet money Caitlin Clark was in that 2%. Why? Because she's the only one publicly saying what everyone should be thinking. We have to play next year. We have to keep this momentum going. Both sides need to compromise. Both sides need to feel heard. That's how deals work. You don't get everything you want, but you get enough to keep moving forward. But apparently that's too reasonable for some people. Instead, we're giving strike authorization to a union that moves funny online. And I'm being generous calling it funny. The WNBA social media accounts have been messy for months. Divisive, petty, and now they have the nuclear option to shut down an entire season whenever they feel disrespected. Do you understand what that means? Right when the league finally has mainstream attention. Right when casual sports fans actually tuning in. Right when corporate money is flowing, the players just handed someone the power to blow it all up. And for what? Better contracts. Fair. Better travel? Absolutely. Better marketing? Long overdue. But you know what kills all of that? No season, no games, no viewers, no revenue, no future. Here's the uncomfortable truth nobody in WNBA media wants to say out loud. The people complaining loudest about new fans are the same people who weren't watching when it was just the core audience. The same analysts screaming about Caitlin Clark taking up too much airtime don't cover anyone else when she's not in the headline. The same podcasters acting like gatekeepers of women's basketball can't even commit to watching full games. Elle Duncan said it out loud. She said the Caitlin Clark fan base sucks the life and fun out of the WNBA, that before all these new people showed up, they had more topics to discuss, more variety and coverage. And my response is simple. So discuss them. Nobody's stopping you. If you want to talk about Aisha Wilson's MVP season, talk about it. If you want to highlight Breanna Stewart's dominance, do it. If you want to give Sabrina Ionescu her flowers, the stage is yours. But here's the problem. Those segments don't get views. Those posts don't go viral. And these media personalities know it. So they do the only thing that works. They talk about Caitlin Clark. And when that works too well, they blame her fans for forcing their hand. It's the most backwards logic I've ever seen. You built your platform on her name. You got your clicks from her highlights. And now you're mad that it worked. Let me give you a specific example. An article came out about Aisha Wilson. Beautiful piece. Well-deserved recognition. And buried in that article was a random shot at Caitlin Clark from the same reporter who wrote a glowing piece about Caitlin the year before. Why was that line in there? What did it add? How did trashing one player enhance the story about another? It didn't. But it got engagement. It sparked debate. It drove clicks. And that's the game now. Caitlin Clark has been dehumanized to the point where she's just content. Not a person, not a 23-year-old kid dealing with stalkers and injuries and pressure nobody her age should handle. Just a name you can throw into any article to boost your metrics. And she handles it with more grace than anyone in her position should have to. She shows up, she competes, she fights through everything. And the thanks she gets is another podcast segment questioning her fans' motives. Here's where it gets really messy. The Indiana Fever just released their 2026 calendar. And Caitlin Clark isn't on it. Not featured, not mentioned, just absent. And fans are losing their minds, asking why the biggest star in franchise history isn't on the team calendar. Now, I'm going to be fair here. I don't think this was intentional disrespect. My guess, image rights issue. Her team probably didn't sign off. Maybe she didn't want to be involved. Maybe there's a marketing conflict. I don't know. But the fact that people immediately assume it's shade tells you everything about where the discourse is right now. Fans are so used to seeing Caitlin Clark disrespected that even a calendar becomes a conspiracy. That's not healthy. That's not normal. And it's not sustainable because here's what happens next. The strike authorization sits there like a loaded gun. Negotiations drag on. Tensions rise. And at some point, someone in that executive committee decides they've had enough. They call the strike. The season gets delayed or cancelled, and all that momentum everyone worked so hard to build just evaporates. Casual fans who were just getting into women's basketball, gone. Corporate sponsors who were finally taking the league seriously, they'll pull their money so fast your head will spin. Media coverage that was finally mainstream, back to niche outlets and diehard blogs. Everything resets to 2023 levels, maybe worse. And the saddest part, the people who will suffer most are the players who wanted to play. The ones who saw this as their chance to break through. The rookies who were about to have their moment. The role players who finally had an audience. All of them collateral damage because some veterans couldn't let go of their grievances long enough to capitalize on success. I want to be clear about something. Player empowerment is important. Fair contracts matter. Better working conditions are non-negotiable. I'm not anti-union. I'm not anti-player. But I'm anti-stupidity. And giving strike authorization right now, in this moment, with this momentum, is stupid. You know what's also stupid? Spending more energy trashing your own fans than building them up. Making podcast clips designed to go viral by dunking on the people who buy tickets. Writing articles that throw shade at the player who sold out your arenas. It's all so backwards. And the worst part is that everyone knows it. Even the people doing it know it's wrong. But they do it anyway because rage drives engagement. Controversy gets clicks, and tearing someone down is easier than building something up. Here's my challenge to WNBA media, to the analysts and podcasters and reporters who claim to love this game. Prove it. Show me you can get views talking about basketball without mentioning Caitlin Clark every 5 seconds. Show me you can build up other players without tearing anyone down. Show me you actually watch the games you're so passionate about defending, because right now I don't believe you. I think you're tourists in your own league. I think you're using women's basketball as a vehicle for your own hot takes and social commentary. And I think you're doing more harm than good. The pendulum is swinging. People are tired of bad faith debates. They are tired of being told they are watching wrong. They are tired of analysts who don't analyze and experts who don't watch. They want quality content about the actual game, breakdowns, strategy, player development, stories that matter. And if you can't provide that, someone else will. That's how media works. The audience finds what they want. And right now, They are finding it outside the traditional WNBA media bubble. So, here's where we are. Strike authorization locked in. Podcast drama still echoing. Team USA training camp. Positivity already forgotten, and a whole lot of people talking about everything except basketball. Iowa just suspended Emily Rodriguez indefinitely for violating team rules. Not injured, not sick. Disciplinary action. She's not even traveling to New York for the game against UConn. And according to sources, she can rejoin the team if she recommits to their standards, whatever that means. So now, we've got suspension drama, strike authorization drama, podcast drama, calendar drama, and all of it happening at once. It's like the WNBA looked at its best year ever and said, you know what? This needs chaos. I'm going to leave you with this. The WNBA is at a crossroads. One path leads to sustained growth, mainstream acceptance, and generational wealth for players. The other path leads back to obscurity. And right now, the people with the most power are sprinting toward that second path while yelling at fans to stop following them. Caitlin Clark is 23 years old, and she sees it clearer than veterans twice her age. We have to play. We have to compromise. We have to keep moving forward. It's not complicated. It's not revolutionary. It's just common sense, but common sense doesn't drive engagement. And that's the real problem. We've built a media ecosystem that rewards controversy over clarity, that celebrates division over unity, that punishes anyone who tries to take the high road. And until that changes, we're going to keep having these same conversations, the same tired debates about who deserves credit and who's a real fan and whether new attention is good or bad. Meanwhile, the game itself gets lost in the noise. So, do better. Players, do better. Media, do better. Fans, do better. Everyone needs to take a long look in the mirror and ask if what they are doing is actually helping women's basketball or just helping themselves. Because if this strike happens, if this season gets cancelled, if all this momentum dies, you can't blame Caitlin Clark. You can't blame new fans. You can only blame the people who chose drama over progress. And history won't be kind to that choice. The clock is ticking. Figure it out.